to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are really blessed with a lot of our student athletes, winter athletes and everything, and so we just want to honor them and for the accomplishment that they've achieved this winter season, and so we just want to say thanks.
Absolutely. So we have some things to give out to some of these student athletes. We're going to talk about our diving team first, and Logan, our state diver, is at track, I think, right now, which is, I think, a lot of our students are, but we're still going to recognize him and his coaches. So Logan Whitaker, diving. Logan's dominance began early and remained consistent throughout the winter season. His competitive drive was on full display as he won the diving event in all but one dual meet this entire season. In the NE8 conference, he, for the third consecutive year, was crowned the NE8 conference diving champion, which is a testament to his sustained excellence over his high school career. And after a strong second place finish at sectionals, Logan moved on to one of the most competitive regionals in the state. Facing a very difficult field, he secured fourth, comfortably landing in the top 8 to earn his ticket to the state finals. At state, in a grueling gauntlet that started with 32 of the best divers in the whole state of Indiana, the field got cut down to 16 for the finals, those who ultimately score points for their schools. Logan didn't just make the cut, he excelled under the bright lights, finishing 12th in the state, and this 12th place finish represents the highest state placement by any Belmont athlete in the history of our swimming and diving program. So congratulations, Logan, that's quite exceptional, and certainly wish he could be here for us to congratulate him, but he did a great job. And his coaches, Drew Norby, the head coach of the swim dive team, Laura Whirling, and Tim Krugerberg, we also want to thank them for their dedication in helping grow that program. So thank you, coaches. We're going to move on to our wrestling guys. We're missing one this evening. Xavier Palacios is at track as well. But I'm going to tap their coach here for a minute to kind of just give a summary of the season for this group and for your whole team, because it takes somebody wrestling against them to practice to get them to this point too, right?
Okay. Well, we had a very special group this year. A lot of neat accomplishments. Our team finished third in the dual team state championships, 2A, and that was at Brownsburg High School. It's quite an event that our kids prepare for. And it's not easy to do, to fill a lineup from 106 all the way to 285 with the school the size of ours, but we managed to. These guys jockey for positions, and it's a true team sport. With the mindset that these boys have, we engage in a process called winning mindset, and they truly look at the sport with the proper perspective of it in life. They know their faith and families and education comes before it, but it is still a huge part of their lives that they take very, very seriously. But they are always reminded about the priorities of life, and it's a very happy group of boys. And again, third in the state of Indiana is a very big deal. That is a class tournament, but then it's after that it switches to individual, and that's what these boys are here for tonight. All 6 of them qualified for the state finals this year. In wrestling, individually, it's one class. So when you are in that tournament, it's a very big deal. And what these guys have, just by making that tournament is a huge deal. But a lot of the sacrifices and adversity that they have faced, that's the part no one sees. That makes you so proud of these kids. Yeah, it's neat going to state and being in that tournament, but I know what they've been through, the blood, sweat, and tears that they've endured in their careers, and they're just, yes, I'm excited for them as wrestlers, but they're going to be great fathers, great husbands, and great workers when that time comes. But it's been a pleasure. I'm going to miss the three seniors. Xavier can't be here, but Samuel Wolper got his picture on the wall by making it to the state finals, and he's just above his pops in the background, who also made it to the state.
He could have gone all night now.
Yeah. So it's a neat family achievement, no doubt about it. And Grady Baker found his niche late in life. Started in middle school and ends up being one of the top 16. I'm pretty confident he was at least top 10 in the state of Indiana, and just something else. And Xavier will go down as the all-time pin leader. And that's saying quite a bit in our program's history. He's a two-time state placer, 2 medals. So neat for our seniors. I'm glad that we get these three back. We got the brothers who act like brothers. They were just acting like brothers a little bit ago. Get along, children. Henry and Charlie, they're great for each other. They battle each other, but it's neat when they walk out the room. They're brothers. They love each other, whether they admit it or not. And again, to make it to state finals together was a neat achievement for them. And then with my son Gabriel, it was a neat monkey off his back too, because I know he wanted to do some neat things too, because he had a brother to live up to, but he's making a name for himself, and awful proud of him, and can't wait for his future as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's start with our two seniors, Sam and Grady. No, sit down. Okay, so as seniors, you get to speak and kind of give some words of wisdom of what does it take to achieve greatness after all these years in sport, and what would be your best advice to folks in any sport, really?
I don't really have too much to say about being great. I was never the best, but I think one thing about wrestling that really stands out at this school would be our family, and I think that's not the only reason I was able to make it as far as I did. I wouldn't say it was anything I did super special. I mean, everybody in the room did the same stuff as me. Nobody changed anything. But I mean, I have Gabe most of the time at practice, but I could go and have Henry or Chuck or Owen or Austin or just about 10 other guys and have a great partner. I mean, it speaks on how well our community is and how driven everybody in that room is. I mean, that's really all I can say about that, is just the tradition we have to have good kids out there and have great partners out there, and everybody wants to work hard. No matter how many times I try to beat Gabe up and not let him score on me, the next day he comes and beat me up and try to not let me score on him. So I think that's just the biggest thing about why this year was different. It's just we had something special. Even if we didn't get first at team state or anything, it was still a really cool experience and something I'll look back at the rest of my life.
I covered the basics. I was in a little bit different boat than he was. I had about 2 guys I could go with every single day. And they were a lot older than me and a lot stronger than me. But it just kind of what you got to do to achieve your goals, especially going 2 years and not achieving that. But just the support system, I would say, is the biggest thing for me. I mean, you always know that your coaches, your family, your teammates are going to have your back. No matter what you're going through, if it was a good day, if it was a hard day, they're always right there to pick you up. And as soon as you step into that room, everything is, you're only focused on getting better that day. That's what we talk about, just get better. It's the middle of the season, and you got a tournament or whatever, but everybody's there just to get better and fine, and just finish the season out, and even the day out strong, depending on what can push us through.
You have great advice. Thank you. Well, a little bit more information about these two individuals. So Sam is a state qualifier this year in 26, but he was two-time conference champ in 24 and this year, so congratulations there. Grady qualified for state this year. He was two-time regional champ in 25 and 26, and two-time sectional champ in the same year. So congratulations to both of you for your accomplishments. I'm proud of you. Okay, next group we're going to have are, let's see, Charlie Ferrote. Congratulations, Charlie. Do you have any words for us?
Not really.
I'll let you off the hook. Henry. Congratulations, Dean. How about you? You got any
I
more?
probably should have said anything.
And Gabe. You got anything to say?
Just thanks, Deborah.
Let me tell you a little bit about these gentlemen. So Charlie was a state qualifier this year, and Gabe was a state qualifier this year and sectional champ. And Henry is a three-time state qualifier, 24, 25, and 26. Regional champ this year, sectional champ this year, and two-time conference champ in 25 and 26. So congratulations, guys, and great job.
Thank you.
And we also have their coaches to recognize. I think a few of them are here tonight. So Mr. Myers. Ben. And then they also had John Ferrote, Joe Rubel, John Rubel, Nick Coons, Jeff Myers. Congratulations. And thank you. Okay, next is our girls basketball team, and most of these girls are at track, but we had the three proud ones come, and they're going to represent everyone tonight, but I'm going to let their coach talk about them first, too.
Right. We're in a little bit of a different boat, you know, we can stand up here and talk about individual accomplishments where obviously those are important for us. That was, you know, a huge part of our success, but we were, you know, as just a team sport, it's a little bit different. You know, coming into the year, sort of the message that I said to Ken this morning was we didn't exactly know where we were going to be. We knew we were young. We knew that we were talented, but we didn't know exactly what was in store for us. And as the season kind of progressed, you know, we continued to play strong. And, you know, I think I've talked about it before, but Kate and I had a conversation after Warsaw of, you know, she was upset that we didn't win, understandably, and everybody sort of thought, you know, we were just happy to play with one of the best teams in the state, and that sort of changed the mindset for everybody. And then, you know, we went on an incredible run through the tournament, and you know, Kim and I talked about it at the beginning, just sort of rewatching that and rewatching them on the court is probably the most fun that I have when I watch that game, just to see the excitement. You know, with about 40 seconds to go, sort of everybody understands what's going on, but it's not official, and then the last rebound and pass, you sort of see, especially Ani, just sort of her and Kate, their faces, and it's just a cool thing that they'll never forget, that I'll never forget, and just sort of the impressiveness that they showed. Again, going back to what we talked about at the beginning of just, you know, when you walk into that stadium, it's very intimidating to be on that floor, to see the people, to see the lights. Like, it's really strange when you get down on there, and for them to just sort of go out and play it like a normal game of basketball as if it's in our own gym, it's just wildly impressive. And for, you know, 16, 17, 18-year-old people to go out and do that is just, I don't understand how they do it. It's all, you know, even today. So that's really all I had to say. We had individual accomplishments, you know, all conferences and all states and all that, but really this is a team award, so we're not going to get too far into that.
Well, some other things you sent to me, that you had only had 3 losses, and all 3 of those came from 4A schools, and never lost to a school that was your size or smaller, which is impressive. Finished second in a very tough conference, a conference that produced 3 sectional winners and 2 teams advancing to the state finals. You were top 25 in the state by defensive margin, offensive margin, and margin of wins. You had 5 girls make all conference, 2 girls make all state. We had the state game mental attitude award winner, Ms. Compersay over here. Congratulations, Bree. And a wonderful team effort produced the first girls championship, state championship girls basketball team. So congratulations. Why don't all 3 of you come out here? And it doesn't matter who's a senior and who's not, because I know we only have 1 senior, but I'll let Bree start. Do you have anything to say about the season, or just advice you give other, especially female athletes?
I'm really gonna miss these girls. That's probably the first thing I have to say. Like, even today, like, they had their call-up meeting, and Lenny's like, oh, I'm gonna miss you, and Hadley today was like, you know, you could just come back, and I was like, I know, I'm like, I'm gonna miss it, and it's weird because, like, every other season that ends, like, you end on a loss, and it's just over, and then we ended on a win, and they're just kind of kept, like, I keep seeing them everywhere, so it's like, it's never really over, and then, like, I'm gonna graduate in a couple months, so I would just say it's short, and just to not live with the what ifs, like, go out and try everything, like, whether you think you're good at it, you're bad at it, whatever, just go and try it and have fun.
What about you, Kate?
I don't really have any wisdom, but like I just want to say thank you to the community because like once we got there, it was kind of crazy, just like seeing everybody in the stands, and I feel like the program's just kind of been built up over the past few years, so no one has really known who we are, especially like all throughout the state. So just having our community support all throughout that run was amazing.
Yeah, same thing. I really am thankful for the community for like coming out and supporting us every game, and I'm also super thankful for our team because obviously it's a really good group. So.
You all were very impressive. How poised you remained. Again, we're a relatively young team, and you could tell that you maintained your poise and your determination. You didn't get rattled, or you didn't show it if you were on the inside. And I think it kind of goes to maybe probably something similar to what Grady was saying a moment ago, which is that attitude of just think about the next play, the next game, the next step. You've got to take it one step at a time. Otherwise, you get yourself overwhelmed and get in your head. I'm really impressed with just how you all handled yourself and stayed in it no matter what was happening. And you are now basking in the glory from that. We have a couple of certificates for the ladies, too. And again, a lot of their teammates are track runners, so we're appreciative they were able to come tonight. So congratulations, Kate Kitson. Bree Compersay, mental attitude award winner for the state for our conference, or our 3A. Thank you. And Hadley. And then I have some other certificates for you. Andy Hine, their coach. He has a group behind him too. Rachel K. Meyer, assistant coach. Holly Laurent, Faith Morris, Denny Reinking. I think these were the ones we knew couldn't make it. Other girls, Ella Shum, Caitlin Bourne, Ellie Laurent, Paige Black, and Ani Krugerberg. I think I gave you some of the other ones. Pardon. Then Caitlin Barton, Maya Schlemmer, Lainey French, Ashley Bleaky, Ava Billman, Mary Bleaky, and I think the rest of you?
Yes.
And it was super fun, and for the whole community, but for everyone. It will definitely be one of those memories I think everyone will hold on to for a long time. So congratulations to all of you. You're more than welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting, but if you need to get off, you're more than welcome to do that as well. That's right.
No, I won't.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good job, guys.
That's awesome with all of our sports and athletes, and we have a good group of kids and coaches that are role models, and so that's pretty awesome. So we're just going to move on to consensus items. So first of all, is there any public comments on the agenda items? Nope. All right, so now we'll just move on to consensus items. So yeah.
I don't really have any comments on any of the consensus items. No retirements reported on this one, and nothing. I guess there was one thing. There is a technical correction for a policy, 6105, and again, when that's a technical correction, it's usually just a matter of a small word or two, and that can be voted on under consensus items.
Any questions on the consensus items? Do I have a motion to approve?
Make motion approved.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Darlene, second by Wiley. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. So passes 5-0 because Joel's on there. Is that right? Yeah. All right.
I voted.
Thanks, Joel. Good that. Can you raise your hand? Sorry. So hey, we're going to move on to program update next. Steve Macklin, he's our Director of Technology, and we're excited that you're here to kind of give us some updates.
I try not to take it personally. I feel like every time I come here, I let people leave. Can't go on. As you said, Steve Macklin, I'm Technology Director of the district. I'm in kind of a unique position where I get to deal with a little bit of anything and everything in the entire district, many different levels. You get the opportunity to work out several things on a daily basis in different facets. So I appreciate that. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that. I can't do it alone, obviously. I've got a pretty good tech gang behind me that always try to take the opportunity to thank Daniel Decker at the high school, and Prayer Hearn at the middle school, Shelby Mauer, middle school, elementary also. Those are building techs. Joe Wolpert, who has kind of one foot in curriculum, one in the tech area. Beth Boniface, who retired several years ago, but we keep getting her to come in for a few days a week to get some projects done and stuff. There's also, our department can't do what we need to without a lot of other departments then also. The library is right there with us as far as trying to deal with kids on a daily basis, whether it's fines or checking things out, keeping assets, records of all of that. Laura and Amanda are right on top of that kind of thing for us and for the whole district, quite honestly. We appreciate them on that. We've also keep getting more and more into testing, digital testing, which brings Julie Schuler and Joe Wolpert into it then also. They're nonstop, and there's a lot of discussions back and forth between us with what we need to be done, what's coming in the future, next week, this week, tomorrow, whatever. We appreciate them and keeping eyes on and ears to the ground. Justin Harris has done a fabulous job with the website the last 4 years. He built that from a new basically the first thing he did, like, here's the keys to the kingdom, see what you can do, bring some stuff over and make it work. A lot of times people don't realize that with technology, we work with maintenance quite a bit. I want to thank those guys too. They're always helping us, whether we need to install something or just be a heads up on electrical problems today. That was happening today. We were coming up with all kinds of notifications of things not going right back there. 160 emails, I believe it was, within about 12 minutes. Appreciate them tracking things down then to Tim and Blake, or Troy and Blake there. State reporting, we still have Miriam Hopkins on there. Nothing around here can get it done if Miriam isn't on top of things, getting reports to the state, which allows us to get funding. And Joe's helping her with that sometimes too. So much appreciation. It's been a little while since I've been here, and I'll admit that I didn't realize, I brought a couple of devices that we do at the schools, and we have some new board members. I will admit that I forgot we swapped you guys all out iPads, so I'm not even going to pass that one around. Just know that the iPads that you have there is what we have from kindergarten up through 8th grade. Every student has one of those. Same kind of case with the keyboard, with all that kind of stuff. Felt it pretty necessary a couple of years ago to try to get them to go to keyboards, because this doesn't work everything. We're using the thumbs on the phones and whatnot. What I do have here is a Dell laptop that we do at the high school. It's a 2-in-1 with a touch screen. This year, we've had this model for a couple of years. This will be the last year that we have it. And frankly, we were lucky to get that. As many people may have heard, may know, electronics are getting more and more expensive. Components are getting harder and harder to find. A lot of it has to do with data centers that are being built. From the news all over the place, the AI data centers. There's buying up chips and RAM and all kinds of components, and it's really the supply demand does not work well for us. So we have lucked out this year. We were able to get the same thing we did last year. Actually, it's boosted up there component-wise with business for the freshmen and then taking. So we'll be looking at different models next year for the 2027 year, 2027, 28. Maybe Dell, may not be. We'll find out at that point. But one way or another, this is the last year on that model. A couple of things that we've talked about in the past that we ended up getting done then is we have gotten all of our switches and all the network closets. I don't think I've been back since we've done that. Those were updated here a while back. They have, in addition to being new, we've also doubled the pathways to them, which I'll talk about here in a second, but we'll fail over redundancy basically is what we're looking at doing there when it goes out from our data center over at the middle school out to all the different places there. There's been about 50 of them or so. The next step, then we end up going into more of the core switches. We actually did those first, and then it goes out from there. Battery backups, all of those are also been upgraded and integrated into the network. I was saying a little bit ago that we had an issue today that all of a sudden I had one network closet that was just feeding out all kinds of notifications. We know when there's a power outage, so which is great. Not awesome to see that coming in at 11:30 at night or whatever, but then wondering how long it's going to last. But we're able to do that kind of thing now. It's all integrated in there. The last we had talked, we're getting ready for a new filter system, which is the bane of everyone's existence, including mine. anyone who's thought you look in here on the staff or whatever. We have completely converted over to the newer system. It is now cloud-based. We do not have an appliance on site. Last year, we had all of the wireless devices over to that. This season, we were still toggling between a couple of different filtering systems. This year, we've gotten everything finally over to that, all the wired devices and everything. That was a pretty big undertaking, which I really appreciate the tech game that we were going through and doing that. On the side note of that, we thought it was pretty well done, and then we found out that some of the software comes really off of computers last summer, and so about 2/3 of them in the district, we had to go back through and completely wipe out, re-image, and bring it back up, when we thought we were done. So, again, appreciate my getting on that. There's been an ongoing, I mentioned it a little bit ago, there's been an ongoing effort that we've done to see around here. It starts with even our internet. We've got backup internet options here. There's too many things that we rely on with that. If one goes down, the other one holds fast, that we end up doing too much bandwidth on one, it spills over to the other, so that helps with all the testing that we were dealing with. We were just talking about a little bit ago to make sure that we're up and running with that. Doing that also then helps us to lower cost. We're not having to maintain as much physical hardware here. Windows Server licensing, this is the first year that we're going to be able to really take advantage of that. We're just not going to have to buy as many licenses, and that's a pretty chunk of change there. Even the backup solution that we have a very good backup solution. But by reducing what we're going to maintain on site, we don't have to have as much storage on site nor off site. Everything is up off site. So we've been able to reduce the cost of that than this past year. And also, and we have more servers that will end up going that way in the future. Just kind of the way things are heading. So some of them, phone system here in a couple of years will likely do that as well. Makes me a little nervous. That phone system drives me nuts. Camera system is another option there too. So a lot of them are going that way. Speaking of the phone system, we also actually upgraded all of the software operating system on it. Got the licensing up last summer to get that so that it'll go through the end of life of the actual hardware here in a couple or 3 years. That was mainly all done in the background, and a couple of quirks, but for the most part, most people haven't known that all of this happened, and it actually continues to happen. There's still some tweaks that are being done that way. The last part of that, we're hoping to be able to do on the staff only day here in a couple of weeks. We've got to test calls out to 911. There are certain laws, Kerry's Law and Ray Baum's Law, or acts, that we have to do certain things in a public entity. 911 dispatch has to be able to get information from us. So we're in a position to be able to test that kind of stuff out now. And we're all good. It's just this will be better than what that's run out of compliance right now. We've also, I think the last time I was here, we talked about the strategic system, which is the alert system with badges, and trying to see where the light is here. There's a strobe right back there. Those were all upgraded over the winter break. The strobes are on now larger and brighter. And new badges and some new hardware gateways to go out for the alert account into the strategic system outside of here. One of the nice things that happened with that is we didn't have to have all of the, there were little hubs about every 2 or 3 classrooms or in the hallways taking up power outlets. This new system, this upgrade to strategics, we were able to remove all of those. So it freed up a lot of things, a lot of power outlets. And they're not sitting right there pretty much came up as one by, which happened with that too. So the summer we'll be imaging hundreds of laptops. We'll be doing iPads set up from 8th grade to kindergarten, and for new students, so there's 100 plus of those, but also our remaining on-premises servers will be updating the Windows on those to a more recent version of Windows Server, because the current version on there will be going end of life by January, so we'll be getting that done. One of the biggest things we're going to end up doing here won't be, I mean, it'll start this summer, but it won't be finished this summer, is we'll be replacing all of the access points, the wireless access points in the district. It's about 180 of them. That was an E-rate project that we were bid out, we were able to get awarded. And speaking of E-rate, that's another department then that we really need to give a shout out to. That's the food service department. E-rate, we can talk about that some other time, but it's a program that benefits us hundreds of thousands of dollars in grants money over the course of the 5-year stretches, and it's all based on free and reduced lunch, and that all stems from what those ladies do, Erin and Penny in particular, and what they do with the state and how they keep their data on all of that. If they weren't on top of that kind of stuff, we wouldn't. Heck, it'd be harder for us to have internet here, let alone any of the other equipment between a E-rate you can use to buy equipment, not the end user device, but anything between that and the internet, including the internet. So that's all the switches, firewalls, routers, all of that kind of stuff. So again, there's a lot of interconnectedness here between different departments that you would never think of. So appreciate that with them. Our new access points that we'll be putting in, we have the latest Wi-Fi 7 technology. To be honest, I mean, stuff that our current devices can use, but that gives us a little, I don't want to say future-proofing when it comes to technology, but it does give us a little bit of an edge that way, and we're able to turn that on in a couple of years with these device refreshes. So we also have a couple dozen cameras that we'll end up swapping out, and we'll end up looking for possibility of updating those servers there in the summer. And the cameras that we put in, we're going to have to keep an eye out for the future on that, because like I said, a lot of that's going to the cloud now also. So the cameras themselves, we're going to have our feet in two different worlds there to try to guard against the future that way. So that's all I've got. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I know you guys are ready to get on with the business, but any questions?
I know you really, it just happened with legislators as far as parents, if they're wanting filter systems for when the laptop or whatever comes home.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any chance to think about that yet?
Yeah, the system that we got, that we went to last summer, does have that capability in it. How we get it all looking and presented to them in a manner where they'd be able to actually use it. We need to work through that. This system does do that. That's one of the attributes that we found. So
Does it require an extension or another?
it should not. Yeah.
That's great.
The main thing is they're going to have to be able to log in and see what does that look like with their own credentials. So hopefully that all comes into play next January, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So
But you also have if your system doesn't equate for that, you have a year extension. You're already on top of it.
We're lucky in that regard. And we just got to hope that anything that is done at home, I mean, these are my worries, that what happens if something gets done at home and it doesn't revert back here like it's supposed to, which it is supposed to. It's going to happen at some point. We'll see what ends up going on. But yeah, our current system will allow for that.
And it sounds like E-rate is still going as strong as it was, because there was a period of time when there was some question about that.
About a year ago, there was actually some cases before the Supreme Court that we were a little worried about, but it seems like it's okay right now. Yeah. We've started the next 5-year cycle, so And we've got a chunk of that money spent now while we've got it, but still,
It is a big help,
yeah, we couldn't do this without it.
yeah.
Is there a strategy from going from the iPad to the Dell laptop, or it's on an iPad and then they go straight to the Dell, different operating systems, right?
It is. The main thing we try to deal with that is the one with the keyboard, like I was
Yeah.
saying earlier, to try to help
Yeah.
with that. And it's a matter of using the programs themselves.
Yeah.
So, now one of the big caveats with that though is if you guys dealt with, an iPad or even your phone, a lot of people don't know where anything is saved.
Yeah.
And that gets a little rough there. So we need to be doing a little better job with that kind of thing. Now, through at least right now, through the elementary, they actually go to Windows Lab once a week.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that happens. So there are some classes in middle school, but it's not, you're right, it's not one-to-one.
Yeah, even when I go from my Apple to a Dell, I'm like, where's that actually? I can't find it, so.
Yeah, some things are in the left and the right instead, and that kind of thing.
It's also good to have
It
experience
is.
of those systems.
It is, it really is.
We have a good job. I mean, things are changing constantly, so thank you.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Hey Steve, how many cameras are on the campus overall here? Just a number, 200, 500?
There's about 215, I believe.
Really? Wow. That's good.
I was always
Sort
going
of keep an eye on you, Eric.
Yeah. I was at one school here in Adams County, and I had to get my license, and they took a picture of it for security and going into the school system. And then I got a name tag with my name and a picture, and the picture wasn't very great quality.
Yeah.
Is that something that, you think that we need for security purposes?
We looked at that a year or two ago, maybe now, and talked with our SRO, and we kind of debated about it. And to be honest, we didn't know if it would be worth the expense of it. The way our buildings are set up, that people can't go anywhere until they get the okay.
Yeah.
Not gonna say it would never be, worthwhile to do something like that, but we did look into a couple of systems a year and a half or 2 years ago.
We have a pretty secure
Yeah.
campus as far as secure building entry. So I think for schools that it probably was more cost effective than having to do a renovation to create a secure entrance. Really no one goes past our offices unless we're escorting them.
Right.
And they are given visitor badges and things, but I've been there
Yeah.
too, and it's an interesting.
Yeah.
We are, thanks to a parent who kind of brought something to our attention, we are likely going to move to a swipe in and out on our bus so that parents will be able to have an app on their phone if their child's a bus rider, and they'll use their ID of some type to swipe in so that we know that they are on the correct bus. And swipe out when they leave so that parents will be able to look at where they got off at, if they would happen to get off at a stop or something, or if the parents are trying to track where is their child or where's the bus, because sometimes, wind's damaged or there's a bridge out or whatever, how long is it going to be till so-and-so gets wherever. So we are probably going to be looking into doing that in the fall, just to try to add another layer of making sure kids are where they're supposed to be and getting off where they're supposed to get off. So we'll see.
And that system you're talking about, they also store that.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if you would have to visit again, it just pops right up.
Yeah.
So you just know you're in their system forever.
Anything else? Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're gonna move on to old business. One of the policies from last month, policy 6111.
So this was the one, I didn't give you another copy of it, but basically it's what the State Board of Accounts identified that we needed to change a little blurb from the superintendent would basically determine what compliance was with internal controls to the state. We would comply with whatever the State Board of Accounts said. were internal controls. So that was the only change, just to, again, get compliant with what our recent audit corrective action plans.
After this, do we have a motion to accept policy 6111?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
A motion by Wiley, second by Jill, to accept the policy 6111. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed 5-0. We're going to move on to new business, and this is just a first reading of some policies, so no action tonight.
So I'll try to go quickly. We're still trying to clean up some of our policies, and again, whenever you have the long legislative session in 25, had over 100 policies between April and September revisions or updates, so we're still trying to clean up, and then just stuff I've missed over the years. So the first policy, 5895, is just a recension because schools no longer have to provide work permits. We did one last year because a student was coming from a school in Ohio and was working here, so we still had to do one for Ohio, I think. Maybe I have it backwards, maybe they go here, but we're going to work in Ohio. That's probably what it was. We still have to do a work permit for them, but other than that, we don't have to do those any longer, which is good for the kid and makes office open, keeping office open a little bit easier. Then after that are the revisions. So we have 8390 about animals on school property. So this is trying to make some bigger distinctions between what is a service animal, what is an emotional support animal, and what is a certified therapy animal, and when those are allowable on school property, and what methods you have to go through or protocols you have to go through to get any of those accepted, if you're willing to accept all of those. Again, there's a big distinction legally between an emotional support animal and a certified therapy dog that can become very important for public entities, so that is something I would encourage you to read through some of that. You may have strong opinions one way or the other. Then the next policy that we're going to talk about is 8405. This one has not a lot of changes. This one is just had to add some language to address preschool and child care facility and drinking water testing. So that's pretty much all that really changed there, that whenever you run a child care or pre-K, you have to have some additional water testing or make sure you've done XYZ on water testing. 8451 really is just finally updating this policy. So instead of head lice, it now is addressing head lice and bed bugs, and they're calling them parasitic infestations instead of head lice. So a lot of just verbiage changes, but also identifying our policy with head lice has been, and I recommend continue to be, a no live bug policy. We accept kids back with nits. Health department is very clear. American Association of Pediatricians, School Nurse Association. These are nuisances, but they're not a harm to anyone. So again, head lice is something we will call a parent, ask them to come pick the child up, talk about education of how to rid themselves in their home. Bed bugs, we will seal the bug and the student's belongings as a parent to pick them up, educate them, and ask for whatever assistance they might need in addressing the bed bug situation and monitor. And then as a school, we'll obviously do whatever we need to do as far as notification of families, contacting any turf extermination program, especially with a bed bug. We usually will try to be not very lax on what we do, but I can tell you we've had a recent situation with one a few months ago at this point. And we do follow whatever are considered best practices, so they expect you to do it 48 hours without anyone in the building, so it usually has to be done on a weekend or over break or something like that. But,
Policy 8462. This one is just kind of expanding who is responsible for reporting child abuse and neglect. It's already been addressed in many other policies, staff, really staff, classified, professional, administrator. This is, I think, more contracted employees, kind of coaching, things like that. But it also includes the new legislative item that we have to report it to law enforcement of crimes suspected of having happened, as well as potentially DCS. Policy 7540.02, digital content and accessibility. Again, a lot of verbiage changes, uses and includes revisions from a policy to reflect the U.S. Department of Justice final rule under Title II ABA requirements for digital content that we put out, which we've been doing already with our website. We have to make sure things are accessible to folks who might have different needs in accessing information, whether it's tags on pictures and alternative text and things like that. And we've been doing much of that. Policy 8455, coach training references, IHSA reporting. Again, this is reiterated in many other policies we've already approved. This is just one that I had renewed I've gone through all of our policies that were bylaws up through this 5,000s, and now this is in that second half of 6,000s to the 8,000s. So this is just another reiteration of that as far as coaches and so sudden cardiac arrest training, concussion training, the type of extracurricular activities that falls under, and then reporting incidents to the IHSAA. Policy 8800, again, this is one of those 8,000s. This is dealing with displaying the national motto. House Enrolled Act 1066, it had some specific guidelines if you were going to display that and how it needed to be displayed. Again, we're just updating policy. It's not been an issue one way or the other. Policy 6220, a lot of strike throughs on this one of just verbiage changes. But there are certain things that are not now required as part of the budget preparation piece. That just kind of goes through those again. It's very legislation driven. Policy 7455, accounting for, that's a typo in it, sorry, accounting for capital assets. Explains what a capital asset is, cross-references with another policy, addresses the correct part of the State Board of Accounts that addresses capital assets. So again, not very exciting reading, but a lot of financial information. 6230, budget hearing. Basically, this just clarifies that the budget that you folks have to approve, how it has to be available to the public, where it has to be available, and what is included in the form that the public would have access to. Policy 8220, this is talking about, and again, we've been doing this for a while, this is just the language in our policy, what constitutes a virtual school day or an e-learning day for us that would make it allowed to count for the 180 student days that are required. For us is basically you get 3 what we call asynchronous days before it counts against you, but if you're doing e-learning and it's simultaneous instruction with students, live instruction, synchronous we call it, it counts for their 180. 8600, transportation. This is something I want you to spend some time reading through because there are some points that are going to be part of some discussion along with our transportation budget. It changes some definitions of what are considered appropriate vehicles to be transporting students. So not just buses, it talks about mini buses, it talks about other corporation vehicles and what may be used and what allowances they may have in order to transport a student and for what reasons we could transport a student. Policy 8121, another personal background check. One again, we've done probably 4 or 5 other ones dealing with personal background checks. This is in the 8,000s. This is just upgrade
incorporating a lot of cross-references with many of the other policies we've already done, and uses the same language in many of the policies we've already done. So that's kind of a very quick run-through of what this policy packet is. Any questions? As always, if you read through it and you have questions, comments, recommendations, please just call me, email me, whatever, and we'll go through it.
And just a reminder, not 1 year all the way.
Good reminding.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to our next item, approval of resolution of additional appropriation.
So my initial comments maybe weren't exactly accurate. Beth gave me a little more information. So just a reminder, appropriation means that what we were given permission to spend. It's not how much money we have, it's how much of our money we were given permission to actually spend on something. And so with the bonds we have done, when we did the budget last year, we didn't ask permission to spend enough money in order to pay our bond payments out. And so Beth is just asking to increase that appropriation. We just send it into the state that this is one of those steps we have to do to increase that amount so that we can have enough money to spend to pay our payments. There's plenty of money there to do it. We just need to up how much they say we can spend on those things.
Any questions on this recommendation? Got a motion to approve this resolution of additional appropriation?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
A motion by Jill, second by Wiley, to approve the resolution of additional appropriations that are presented. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign and opposed. Okay, that's 5-0. Next, we'll have the approval of the 2026-27 preschool rates.
So when we talked about this last time, several of you asked me to try to come up with some type of sliding scale. So you see kind of 4 different scenarios there. Again, the example 1 is what I call the break-even parallel, knowing about what our expenses have been in the past year, so what I predicted them to be. What would it take to bring in enough revenue with full pay alone to at least break even? We thought that might be too much, even though it's still, I will say, at just over $100, it's still hugely less expensive than I would say any of our counterparts in this area. But again, we want to be stewards for our community and try to be a help, not a hindrance. So you have at the bottom what a much lower rate would be. Again, right now our full pay is $48 a week. With On My Way Pre-K basically going away, the state did put something out last week that they're only going to probably have 2,500 vouchers to give out across the entire state, which may as well translate to we're not going to have any vouchers. And they're probably finishing up the ones that are currently in place, hoping they may get renewed if done in a timely manner, but they're not going to be giving out very many at all. And so the bottom example is if we go with still a little bit more than what we're currently charging, especially if we consider doing a full day, which right now the feedback we're getting from the folks we've heard from so far, and preschool roundup in person is not until next week, 2 weeks, sometime the next week to 2 weeks. That might skew things, but right now it's appearing to me that more of a full day is preferred. So that's kind of a lower rate. My recommendation is to, again, approve a half-day rate and a full-day rate, with the full pay for full day being $85 a week. Then the next recommendation for folks who qualify for reduced lunch, as well as our staff, is $60 a week, and those who qualify for free lunch being $40 a week on a full day. I
also did a sliding scale if we would continue with a half-day rate, and that full pay would be 50, 35 for reduced eligible families and staff, and 25 for those who qualify for free lunch. I'm going to take this moment, depending upon who may be listening, and I'm going to put something out to the community. Because of the information about vouchers is getting out and many people are starting to realize they're not likely going to be available, we are hearing more and more of folks hearing they're just going to have to choose to not put their kids in pre-K. And I would really entreat every family, no matter what, if you have a preschool eligible child, you need to come to Preschool Roundup, and we will do our best to work with every individual family. We want your child in a quality pre-K program more than we want the money for pre-K. Pre-K, again, we still have to pay teachers, we have to pay paras, we have to pay electric and all those things, but it is more important for us to have a kid who is ready for kindergarten, especially with third grade mandatory retention now looming. We are starting literacy instruction with 3-year-olds. Again, it's very developmentally appropriate. They're not going to come home reading a book. They're just learning that words have sounds that can be broken apart, but those are all crucial steps to help them get ready and to be able to hit the ground running, to learn to read by 3rd grade so that they can be promoted to 4th grade. Again, I beg, don't think it's inaccessible if you can't get a voucher or if it has some cost to it that we can't work with you in some way to make sure your child is getting a quality preschool education. It's just crucial, more so than I think it ever was for kids to be in preschool. So please don't count yourself out. Give us a chance to try to work with you to get your kid access to this program. So that was my my rant, I guess, or my begging plea. My recommendation is to go that middle of the road. And it kind of shows you what we potentially could make if we would have an enrollment of 80. Again, the last 3 years we've had over 90 enrolled. So I'm trying to do this on some conservative numbers. We're still going to be operating at a deficit with that program. We have for years. Wiley probably can tell you we have forever, right? A little bit, a lot of it. But again, I think that's how important we say it is that it's just something, it's an investment to what we're doing on down the line, because we're either going to pay for it now in the pre-K or have to pay for it with extra supports and extra staffing to support students who need interventions down the line. So we'd rather have the kids when they're confident and kindergarten ready and feel like they can compete and doing what they're there to do instead of trying to catch up later.
Very reasonable. Definitely not a moneymaker. But clearly your focus is on the students, and I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I think priorities are in the right place.
So any other discussion on this recommendation? So full day rate is 85, 60, and 40. And then half day rates are 50, 35, and 25.
And I guess the allowance that I would ask you is, again, without having had preschool roundup, not knowing our final numbers, not knowing parents' final preferences, you're basically approving both rates. But the allowance would be if we have higher interest in full day, we would take the full day rate. If we don't have an interest in full day, and I'm not saying there's not an opportunity to do both, but it is because of scheduling with staff, it's going to be largely a one or the other. But if we say half day, then at least we have both rates decided. We can present that to parents and say, if you go full day, or if we have a full day program, this is what it's going to be. If we have a half day program, this is what it's going to be when we have preschool roundup, because they'll ask. And I would expect that. They need to have that information.
So it's one or the other.
More than likely going to be one or the other. Again, we'll see what numbers come out, but we have to be able to staff it, and that's going to be the kicker.
And is this thing you told me I can't vote on?
This is the one, because you're virtual and it's an increase in fee, you would not be able to vote on it since you're virtual. Thanks for asking.
Thank you.
You said for a motion?
So, yeah, so is there a motion to approve the 2026, 2027 pre-K rates of the half-day rate of a full 50 or 35 or 35, or for the full-day rate of 85, 60, or 40, based on numbers, right?
I'll make that motion.
So, motion by Wiley, second by Darlene. Any other questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign, those opposed. Passes 4-0. So, next we are going to have our superintendent's report.
So there's been a lot happening here in the last few weeks, just some things I wanted to comment upon. So we talked a little bit in last week's superintendent's report about our best child care. Again, losing the On My Way pre-K and CCDF vouchers has made that extremely difficult to think we're going to be able to continue that. We did have some parents reach out after that board meeting and after we sent out some information asking us to reconsider summer, which we did, and after sending out an individual survey to those staff who have used childcare, we were going to be able to offer summer childcare. We had enough people who had been committed to making their payments and working with us that we think we will break even on that and be fine there. However, I still don't think we're going to be able to do a whole lot during the school year. There's still some conversations about, again, pre-K roundup, kindergarten, some of our primary, we'll see where numbers end up, but childcare was definitely much more difficult to try to reach a break even, and I don't feel like that's something we can take a loss on. Pre-K, I can argue that one, but the child care is not something I think we can take a loss on. So we're probably not going to be able to offer child care starting next fall, just because of the lack of voucher support. There's still some discussion, could we do something for staff children, at least until 3:30, into contract time, so that they could go to meetings and whatever. That's probably sustainable. But other than that, we're probably going to have to make a break with childcare after this summer. Wanted to remind all of you, we do have an executive session May 13th from 4 to 8. We're going to have a work day, talk about a lot of things with things happening with the buildings and the new accountability system, the new high school graduation, get an update on our finances from people, talk about operations and what's happening, all things operations, transportation, custodians, maintenance, all the things that cost money, and make priorities about what needs to happen next. Spring sports obviously are getting started up, and just like always in spring, the rain comes and then it's a matter of makeup days, so that's what I think Tim and Aaron spend a lot of their time is rescheduling. Prom was last weekend, and I think the kids had a great time from what I've heard. Everyone said it was beautiful. Hunger Games, the high school had that the week after spring break and went over for that for a little while, and that was super fun as always. Kids did a great job and had a good time with that. Kindergarten and pre-K roundup again signups are still ongoing. Don't ever think just because you may have missed a survey or whatever. And pre-K roundup is still coming up. I should have that date on here. I think it's in 2 weeks. May 24th is our last Flex Day. That's no school for students, but staff have professional development. And I know a lot of our K-8 folks look forward to Donuts with Grown-ups, and that will be May 1st. And I think there's just now starting to be some information go out to folks to get registered for that and make sure you have your slot. I'm probably forgetting something, but that's all I have for right now. Oh, we did do the State of the Schools address. Wiley was there at the Chamber of Commerce. That was yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
Just yesterday.
It went very well. Disappointed the crowd was not very large, but
That's all right.
but still.
Yeah, thank you.
She did a great job, and certain messages that needed to be out there was expressed.
I mean, any other matters come before the board? board members or public comments?
I have, first thing is, I did tonight share this, which is a question and answer on elected school board. One of the update that legislators did concerning this is there is now a guidance for the ballot and what order it will be placed with the parties first, and then going to nonpartisan at the bottom. But it is, you have to go clear to the end. You can't just do a straight party vote. Yeah, you have to vote specifically for that. So also, the wireless communication, as we've been talking about, it goes through, with the note that parents can request a filtering system or be accessible for when the unit, the device is at home. Also, contracts that school corporation enters into now cannot have an automatic renewal language. If it's like a 3-year contract, then at the end of the 3 years, it's going to have to be renegotiated. That's something there. Patriotic organizations can make presentations, which they have in the past, but the addition here now is that they don't feel like they're being granted that opportunity. They can report it to the Department of Education. Also, okay, I don't want to share that one. This is something for payroll. Teacher retirement can now be paid out of the teacher application grant. That's an addition. And then you also have this, which has some more detailed language in it. One of the things I wanted to point out, which is on page 26, the access to public records that will become finalized. We've talked about that one. That really prevents the phishing and prevents digital entities out there trying to do that. And you can also, if it's a request from out of state, you can charge for that now. On page 27, I'm pointing this out. This is on the Indianapolis Public Education, how they now have another board. And the reason I'm pointing it out, it doesn't specifically impact us now, but could this be some groundwork for future?
I think it is. There's already the 25 legislative session, 3 schools in Indiana, or 3 districts in Indiana who are participating in a pilot program for those. They just forced it with IPS.
Yeah, so, and then on page 32 does it first provides authority to hold a joint meeting with another school board within the boundaries of one of the school corporations. So what this means is, in the past, we could hold a meeting at different locations as long as it was within the school district. Now, you can hold a joint meeting with another school board, like in their district, or they can come to this district. Again, Kim can speak to this. This looks like some foundational work for consolidation and begin those kind of discussions. I won't read you can read the rest here. One of the very last ones, in the past, if a teacher resigns, like during the school year, you could hold them for 30 days before they left to give you a chance to replace them. This removes that. There is no legal way to do that. So that kind of highlights a lot of what happened, and I think Kim may have some other things there to.
I think 1242 was something I shared with folks who were at the Chamber of Commerce, and I think I shared with you folks maybe even last month. That is the bill that is requiring the Department of Local Government Finance and the DOE to complete 2 different studies by this December before the next legislative session. One is to look at basically it'll conclude how much property tax revenue per student every school district is earning, and it will look to create what the median is, I think is the word they use, not just average across the state of Indiana, with the goal that no one should have below the median number, which is great, but I'm concerned that it might also be, because they also ask what are recommendations for how to get the funds to bring everyone up. It might be that everyone above that median might lose, and that's what I hope does not happen. Those rates were set back in the 70s and never got adjusted. One of the few financial things that we did capitalize off of, we did have a fairly high rate compared to other schools in the state. It would be an extremely large deficit if we would have to lose that to go down to what we anticipate the median may be. Would be very devastating for operations. So that is something we are advocating for. We're advocating that there's some hold no fault or hold no foul for those of us who may be over it. The other piece was they want to look at county populations and rank order counties by their population, the number of districts in that population, the number of students in each district in that county, and then look at some other indicators of student success. And that will be to create thresholds and natural breaks in determining, I predict, their thoughts on consolidation and what needs to move forward with that. Which they've talked about that the last legislative session. At first, the number they put forth was counties with 35,000 was the first one, and well, that caught a lot of counties. Then it was increased to 50,000. So my guess is, again, I think we would be safe in the first wave as Adams County. I'm not sure if there's a second wave. I do know there's already been some identification that there's 3 districts in a relatively small county. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, but there are legislators asking why Adams County has 3 schools.
How fast is that moving, do you feel?
I have a feeling there'll be something past this next legislative session. Something. The groundwork's been laid, like with these boards. That's the first step. Is they want to receive recommendations on administrative efficiencies, is the terminology they use. So, is there any opportunity to share transportation services, for example? Is there any opportunity to consolidate administrative offices? So instead of 3 superintendents, is there a way to just have 1 superintendent and 1 administrative office doing the finances? I'm sure there is. I don't think they're thinking about the middle management that would have to be added, because you're talking about a whole new level of workload.
Yeah,
And so
let's
I'm not
say
sure how
maybe
much savings,
200, 500,000.
if that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, that's where they're starting, but that's where these oversight boards are happening, is that I think the ultimate goal, my personal opinion, is they want one board over the county schools,
even if they say they're still separate districts. And then when decisions come that require financial decisions, if a school needs a lot of work done, for example, well, I think then the conversation naturally goes when there's not an affiliation with one particular district. What do we need to do to be cost effective and to manage our monies the best? And that's when consolidation discussions I think naturally happen.
Yeah.
That's
Well, they've made one step for libraries in our state, that for when it comes to budget time, if it reaches a certain threshold, so that budget has to go to county council for final approval. So there's lots of things going on.
I think there's a lot of local government consolidation. There's some pushback on township government,
Mhm.
trying to reduce some of that and put some cost efficiencies there. So it's not just in schools, it just, I don't think it's going to move slowly. It won't be in a year. I hope not, but then again, you have to remember, they closed one school system without any conversation. Now that's still in litigation. And I just saw a letter from their superintendent today that they're enrolling for next year, but the end of next year is supposed to be the end it for them by what happened in 2025.
And then what are the logistics for school board elections and how that works? Seems very complicated.
It is.
And moving fast.
It is.
I think that's just to be prepared and be an advocate for your school district whenever you can.
Absolutely, for sure. And we all have differences of opinion on how things should go and decisions should be made, but at the end of the day, you have to look at the positives you get too, and you want your kids to have a stake in the game. And you want to continue the programs you've become used to and the services you've become used to. Yeah.
Anything else?